would not lead. I merely follow, for I would not lead. I merely follow, for I would not lead. I merely follow, for I would not lead. Hello, I'm Willie from the Ozarks, and I'm glad that you've joined me to study A Course in Miracles workbook for students. We're reading from the original edition. We're ready for lesson 324 here on November the 20th of 2022. I merely follow, for I would not lead. Father, you are the one who gave the plan for my salvation to me. You've set the way I am to go, the role to take, and every step in my appointed path. I cannot lose the way. I can but choose to wander off a while and then return. I can but choose to wander off a while and then return. I cannot lose the way. Your loving voice will always call me back and guide my feet aright. Your loving voice will always call me back and guide my feet aright. My brothers all can follow in the way I lead them, yet I merely follow in the way to you as you direct me and would have me go. So that's the prayer. I merely follow, for I would not lead. And the words that Jesus speaks to us, so let us follow one who knows the way. We need not tarry, and we cannot stray except an instant from his loving hand. We walk together, for we follow him, and it is he who makes the ending sure and guarantees a safe returning home. I merely follow, for I would not lead. You know, I've been thinking about all the things that we've been learning in A Course in Miracles, and really this kind of is the difference between BC, before Christ, or before we started understanding to follow the peace in our heart, that we were basically using our own reasoning to try to figure out which way to go. And we were leading the way, but it wasn't leading us to our sanity, to our peace, to our reality, our true identity. So now we've learned that we can follow, and that by following, we're doing our own will as we do God's will. And isn't it nice to know that I cannot lose the way? I can but choose to wander off a while and then return. Reminds me there of the introduction when he says, let's just look at it. In the introduction, way back at the beginning, I should have had it turned to the page. My book's getting kind of hard to open. This is A Course in Miracles. It is a required course. Only the time you take it is voluntary. Free will does not mean that you can establish the curriculum. It means only that you may elect what you want to take at a given time. This course does not aim at teaching the meaning of love, for that is beyond what can be taught. It does aim, however, at removing the blocks to the awareness of love's presence, which is your natural inheritance. The opposite of love is fear, but what is all-encompassing can have no opposite. This course can therefore be summed up very simply in this way. Nothing real can be threatened. Nothing unreal exists. Herein lies the peace of God. So only the time you take it is voluntary. So we can either listen to the voice of God and step back and let him lead the way, or we can make our own insane decisions as to what's best for us through the eyes of judgment, which we're going to learn today is not a good way to live. Okay, let's go take a look in our manual for teachers. I merely follow, for I would not lead. And in our manual, we're still in the fourth section, which is what are the characteristics of God's teachers. Yesterday we talked about trust and honesty and the development of trust. And we took a little longer than I like to spend yesterday. I try to keep these down to about 20 minutes. But there were so many good things in that. It was well worth it, wasn't it? Tolerance is what we're ready for. The next characteristics after trust, and then honesty, now tolerance. And remember, everything's based on trust. All these other ones follow along naturally after you learn to trust. Tolerance, which you could also think of it as non-judgmentalness. Non-judgmentalness. Tolerance. God's teachers do not judge. To judge is to be dishonest, for to judge is to assume a position you do not have. Judgment without self-deception is impossible. Judgment implies that you have been deceived in your brothers. How then could you not have been deceived in yourself? Judgment implies a lack of trust, and trust remains the bedrock of the teacher of God's whole thought system. Judgment implies a lack of trust, and trust remains the bedrock of the teacher of God's whole thought system. Let this be lost, and all his learning goes. Without judgment are all things equally acceptable, for who could judge otherwise? Without judgment are all men brothers, for who is there who stands apart? Judgment destroys honesty and shatters trust. No teacher of God can judge and hope to learn. Without judgment are all men brothers, for who is there who stands apart? Judgment destroys honesty and shatters trust. No teacher of God can judge and hope to learn. So you see why I like to call it non-judgmentalness, tolerance. Tolerance is just not to judge. Gentleness. Also, I like to call this one harmlessness, which is of the yamas and the niyamas. All you yogis that practice in yoga will know those words. Those are the do's and the don't do's. Not to do and the do's. The do's and the don'ts. Ahimsa is the first one of them, and it's harmlessness. Gentleness. Harm is impossible for God's teachers. They can neither harm nor be harmed. Harm is the outcome of judgment. It is the dishonest act that follows a dishonest thought. It is a verdict of guilt upon a brother and therefore on oneself. It is the end of peace and the denial of learning. It demonstrates the absence of God's curriculum and its replacement by insanity. No teacher of God must learn, and fairly early in his training, that harmfulness completely obliterates his function from his awareness. No teacher of God but must learn, and fairly early in his training, that harmfulness completely obliterates his function from his awareness. It will make him confused, fearful, angry, and suspicious. It will make the Holy Spirit's lessons impossible to learn. Nor can God's teacher be heard at all except by those who realize that harm can actually achieve nothing. No gain can come of it. Therefore, God's teachers are wholly gentle. Therefore, God's teachers are wholly gentle. They need the strength of gentleness. They need the strength of gentleness. For it is in this that the function of salvation becomes easy. To those who would do harm, it is impossible. To those to whom harm has no meaning, it is merely natural. What choice but this has meaning to the sane? Who chooses hell when he perceives a way to heaven? And who would choose the weakness that must come from harm in place of the unfailing, all-encompassing, and limitless strength of gentleness? The might of God's teachers lies in their gentleness. The might of God's teachers lies in their gentleness. For they have understood their evil thoughts came neither from God, Son, nor His Creator. Thus did they join their thoughts with him who is their source. And so their will, which always was his own, is free to be itself. That turkey's wanting to investigate. We better move you out of here. Joy. That is the natural result of gentleness. I like to think of the natural result of gentleness is joy. Listen to this as we read it. Joy is the inevitable result of gentleness. Gentleness means that fear is now impossible, and what could come to interfere with joy? The open hands of gentleness are always filled. The gentle have no pain. They cannot suffer. Why would they not be joyous? They are sure they are beloved and must be safe. Joy goes with gentleness as surely as grief attends attack. God's teachers trust in him, and they are sure his teacher goes before them, making sure no harm can come to them. They hold his gifts and follow in his way, because God's voice directs them in all things. Joy is their song of thanks. Joy is their song of thanks. And Christ looks down on them in thanks as well. His need of them is just as great as theirs of him. How joyous it is to share the purpose of salvation. Defenselessness. God's teachers have learned how to be simple. They have no dreams that need defense against the truth. They do not try to make themselves. Boy, that sure speaks of our lesson today, doesn't it? When it says, I merely follow, for I would not lead. They do not try to make themselves. Their joy comes from their understanding who created them. And does what God created need defense? No one can become an advanced teacher of God until he fully understands that defenses are but the foolish guardians of mad illusions. And we all want to be advanced teachers of God. That's the goal, to be self-realized, which is an advanced teacher of God, an adept. No one can become an advanced teacher of God until he fully understands that defenses are but the foolish guardians of mad illusions. The more grotesque the dream, the fiercer and more powerful its defenses seem to be. Yet when the teacher of God finally agrees to look past them, he finds nothing was there. Slowly at first, he lets himself be undeceived, but he learns faster as his trust increases. He learns faster as his trust increases. It is not danger that comes when defenses are laid down. It is not danger that comes when defenses are laid down. It is safety. It is peace. It is joy. And it is God. And oh boy, does the world ever need to learn this lesson from us teachers of God. That we're the salt of the earth. And it just takes a little salt or a little seasoning for the whole loaf. But that little bit, that little demonstration of trust in the unseen hand of care, God, is what everyone in the world needs. Slowly at first he lets himself be undeceived, but he learns faster as his trust increases. It is not danger that comes when defenses are laid down. It is safety. It is peace. It is joy. And it is God. Defenselessness is a quality that a lot of people don't even consider to be a quality that's, the old way of thinking. We didn't consider defenselessness to be all that important, but oh my, it's one of the characteristics of a teacher of God. And the last one we're going to read today is generosity. And we'll save the last two or three for tomorrow: patience, faithfulness, and open-mindedness. But generosity, paragraph 18. The term generosity has special meaning to the teacher of God. It is not the usual meaning of the word. In fact, it is a meaning that must be learned, and learned very carefully. Like all the other attributes of God's teachers, this one rests ultimately on trust. For without trust, no one can be generous in the true sense. To the world, generosity means giving away, in the sense of giving up. To the teachers of God, it means giving away in order to keep. To the teachers of God, generosity means giving away in order to keep. This has been emphasized throughout the text and the workbook, but it is perhaps more alien to the thinking of the world than many other ideas in our curriculum. Its greater strangeness lies merely in the obviousness of its reversal of the world's thinking. In the clearest way possible and at the simplest of levels, the word means the exact opposite to the teachers of God and to the world. 19. The teacher of God is generous out of self-interest. The teacher of God is generous out of self-interest. This does not refer, however, to the self the world speaks of, the ego. The teacher of God does not want anything he cannot give away, because he realizes it would be valueless to him by definition. Let's read that one again. The teacher of God does not want anything he cannot give away, because he realizes it would be valueless to him by definition. What would he want it for? He could only lose because of it. He could not gain. Therefore, he does not seek what only he could keep, because that is a guarantee of loss. Therefore, he does not seek what only he could keep, because that is a guarantee of loss. He does not want to suffer. Why should he ensure himself pain? But he does want to keep for himself all things that are of God, and therefore for his Son. These are the things that belong to him. These he can give away in true generosity, protecting them forever for himself. These he can give away in true generosity, protecting them forever for himself. Wow, isn't that beautiful? Okay, we're going to read What is Creation, which is our associated reading with Lesson 324. I merely follow, for I would not lead. But before we read that, let's take a look at another blueberry. And this particular blueberry is the Sunshine Blue Dwarf blueberry from AdaptableLandscaping.com. And it's a Vaccinium, that's the genus, and it's a cross between an Ashei or an Ashi, I'm not sure how to pronounce it, A-S-H-E-I, and a Coriumbosum. Okay, and what I call it again, it's the Sunshine Blue Dwarf. And the Sunshine Blue Dwarf blueberry, Sunshine Blue is a compact dwarf southern highbush blueberry, adaptable to different soils and climates, from San Diego to Seattle, from Florida to Pennsylvania. Excellent ornamental value, 3 foot tall. Our best plant for keeping in a large wine barrel type pot. Yields are 5 to 10 pounds of fruit per bush and about 80 berries per cup. Excellent fruit and productive. Very low chill. Only needs a few days of temperature below 45 degrees to begin growing again. It's a good choice for indoor winter gardening or greenhouse. Fall color is red. Native species, 4-foot circle. Berries large and sweet. Zones 5 through 10. So it'll do well here in the Ozarks. Okay, and that's your blue dwarf blueberry. Hey, look, I've got these turkeys come around here to visit with us today. Can you see the turkeys? They're just hey guys, how you guys doing today? Huh? They just wanted to hang out with me. They seem to kind of like to come down here and study with me, or at least listen, or just hang out. Anyway. Okay, let's see. Let's look at what is creation under I merely follow, for I would not lead. Creation is the sum of all God's thoughts, in number infinite and everywhere without all limit. Only love creates, and only like itself. There was no time when all that it created was not there, nor will there be a time when anything that it created suffers any change. Forever and forever are God's thoughts exactly as they were and as they are, unchanged through time and after time is done. God's thoughts are given all the power that their own Creator has. For He would add to love by its extension. Thus His Son shares in creation and must therefore share in power to create. What God has willed to be forever one will still be one when time is over and will not be changed throughout the course of time, remaining as it was before the thought of time began. Creation is the opposite of all illusions, for creation is the truth. Creation is the Holy Son of God, for in creation is His will complete in every aspect, making every part container of the whole. Its oneness is forever guaranteed inviolate, forever held within His holy will beyond all possibility of harm, of separation, imperfection, and of any spot upon its sinlessness. We are creation, we the sons of God. We seem to be discreet and unaware of our eternal unity with Him, yet back of all our thoughts, past all our fears, there still is certainty. For love remains with all its thoughts, its sureness being theirs. Yet back of all our doubts, past all our fears, there still is certainty. For love remains with all its thought, its sureness being theirs. God's memory is in our holy minds, which know their oneness and their unity with their Creator. Let our function be only to let this memory return. Let our function be only to let this memory return. Only to let God's will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Only to be restored to sanity and to be but as God created us. Our Father calls to us. We hear His voice and we forgive creation in the name of its Creator, holiness itself, whose holiness His own creation shares, whose holiness is still a part of us. I merely follow, for I would not lead. Father, You are the one who gave the plan for my salvation to me. You have set the way I am to go, the role to take, and every step in my appointed path. I cannot lose the way. I can but choose to wander off a while and then return. Your loving voice will always call me back and guide my feet aright. My brothers all can follow in the way I lead them. Yet I merely follow in the way to You, as You direct me and would have me go. I merely follow, for I would not lead. So let us follow one who knows the way. We need not tarry, and we cannot stray except an instant from His loving hand. We walk together, for we follow Him. And it is He who makes the ending sure and guarantees a safe returning home. I merely follow, for I would not lead. Be sure I tell you this over and over because, I need to remind myself. Try to remember those hourly remembrances. I sometimes have a very difficult time remembering them, but when I forget, or I just try to do the best I can the rest of the day. And give a thanksgiving and a little moment of reflection with the idea for the day and how you doing? Are you listening to God? Today, I merely follow, for I would not lead. And then also be sure sometime during the afternoon or evening to do your longer period. And as best you can when you first get up, have your morning extended period of quiet. I merely follow, for I would not lead. 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 Thank you again for joining me. I merely follow, for I would not lead.